Hello and welcome back to the channel. Nice to have you back. Traditionally, motorcycling was a hobby in the UK, and as soon as the economy starts to struggle, luxuries are always going to take a hit first. If we can't afford our bills, then we can't afford the bike. This then contributes to the slow decline in biking. Younger folk aren't even driving now. A lot of it's to do with the fact they can't afford to. Most of their income is going on just basic shelter and paying the bills. So the decline in biking is actually a combination of factors, but it's part of a much bigger problem. Like most Western economies, the UK economy is in real trouble. It's saddled with debt, there's no growth. Our economic system is based on continual growth, but it's being throttled with taxation, bureaucracy, and we've outsourced so much overseas as well. In order to protect the state and the managerial class, it's likely they're just going to run the economy into the ground. I don't believe we have the leadership to turn it around. In this country, we have a tendency to install managers who then employ bureaucrats. These managers take seats of power that should really be run by leaders, and if you want to actually turn something around, you need leadership and not management. All the management we've got, all they will do is just administrate the decline. In recent decades, we've built a false economy, not on new ideas and growth, but on credit and inflated house prices. This suited the establishment, who are the biggest landowners. Did you know in the UK, 1% of the population own most of the land? So it suited them and the banking system to make basic shelter an asset class to store capital. And we've been living through this for the past 20 years. This is the same for most Western countries and has led to terminal societal decline and a catastrophic population decline, which I'll get into in another video. How can you expect young people to engage with motorcycling if they spend more than half their income on basic shelter? One of the worst things about modern times compared to when I was young is absolutely everything is turned into an asset class and then money is extracted from it. I remember when I was younger there wasn't actually much value in classic bikes. You could get them very cheaply and people realised the amount of work it took to keep them running was simply not worth it. Then again they became an asset class, investment moved in and the price of classic bikes just went bananas. I believe we've already hit the Laffer curve. This is when taxation has gotten so high that the industrious members of society who keep things going are just giving up. There's absolutely no point in working extra under such heavy taxation, as you're essentially trading your time for little in return. It used to be the case where there was a belief where you work hard, earn more, and then you can pursue the things you want to do, but it just becomes a lose-lose game, especially for young people. Income tax payments are concentrated amongst those individual taxpayers with the highest incomes too. The top 10% of income taxpayers with the largest incomes contribute over 60% of income tax receipts. I'm not talking about the less than 1% here, I'm talking about the top 10% of income taxpayers with the largest incomes. And now more than half the population is in receipt of some sort of benefit. As soon as these high earners start pulling back, we're in real decline, which I believe is what's happening now. There's absolutely no incentive at the moment to work hard. It's impossible to get a house and you're just crushed from every angle. You simply can't have social systems like the NHS without a thriving economy to support them. And the UK is spending like a person who's lost their job and surviving on credit cards to maintain their lifestyle. I, as I said, don't think we've got the leadership to get us out of this, but there are always routes out. We can't compete with manufacturing in terms of other countries. They don't have the same environmental restrictions, our energy costs are expensive, and they can pay much lower wages. Manufacturing is something that's always under pressure for more efficiency. It's especially something that's going to be hit hard with automation, so I doubt even if you moved manufacturing to the UK it would create many jobs. The only jobs you can really have in the UK are highly specialised. Have you heard of what are called dark factories in China? These are factories that are so automated and need so few people, they just don't turn the lights on, they just sit in the dark. Resources go on one end, product comes out the other. The only true way to build out of this economic hole is with new ideas, creativity and invention. Instead of artificially inflating house prices or giving people cheap credit, you have to actually come up with ideas which then generate income, which then help the economy kickstart itself. Something for the nerds amongst you as well. Warhammer is a great example of the sort of thing we should be doing. Culturally very British, it's now $1 billion industry. A good example is that the Warhammer franchise is now worth more than the UK fishing industry. So that's something that's creative, it's led by the UK, it comes from here and it's enjoyed worldwide. Royal Enfield and Triumph both do the same. They have design and development talent here, then they outsource the manufacturing. One of the things the UK is untouchable at is creativity and engineering. All our history shows this, and this is where our focus should be. Another good example is Jonathan Ive. He was a British industrial designer and was responsible for the original iPhone. He made a global impact on industrial design. Now, as someone who went through the British education system, it's completely designed to create workers for factories and is absolutely not designed to create individual, creative, free thinkers who are the exact people that are going to get us out of this mess. Another good example is the UK used to be a major hub for video game development. Then Canada realised it needed something like that, so it offered massive tax incentives and essentially stole the talent from here. For years, the British government refused to do the same tax incentives, and as a result, the games industry is now a shadow of its former self. The UK's always had great inventors, great thinkers, but instead of embracing these people, they're often crushed by bureaucracy and atrocious education system. And these are the people that you really need to get out of the trouble that we're actually in at the moment. I haven't seen this change of policy in my lifetime, so I don't expect to see it anytime soon. It'd require a fundamental redevelopment of culture and society. Instead, at the moment, young people are trapped in a bureaucracy, high taxation, that they can't get a leg up. There's no opportunity for them because we're not generating new ideas and pushing them to the forefront. The UK's real strength is in creativity, not just in the arts, but things like engineering, invention, computer science and similar. As someone that's worked in the tech industry, you can find Brits and companies all over the world. They shouldn't have had to leave to realise their potential, but as soon as someone here has great potential, another country will just steal them. In order to fix this, we would require a long-term policy change on education, a fundamental redevelopment of society and culture with a focus on creativity first. Instead, all that's going on at the moment is a government flailing around with bureaucracy intent on protecting itself and taxing people into the ground. You're always told, oh, work hard, go to college, get a career, but it just doesn't work like that anymore. There's just not the opportunities for young people. Hopefully a lot of the talented, creative young people don't just leave. They sit down and they come up with their idea and they develop their idea. But it's so impossibly difficult with such a crushing bureaucracy now. You often hear right solutions, left solutions, but all the different isms, they're not working anymore. The corruption's too high, the state has too much power and the taxation's too high. So I read a lot of various things like economics and stuff, so I'm just going to introduce you to an idea for your consideration. I'm not endorsing it or anything, I'm just giving it as an example of something interesting that could be a possibility. There's an ism called Georgeism by the political economist Henry George. Georgeism was a way of thinking about economics and land use. He was an American economist and social philosopher, and it's basically a tax on land and assets versus work. Where the UK has had a massive failure is making houses an asset class. The propaganda was right behind this, the banking system was right behind this, but it's put us in a position where basic houses cost 9 times the average salary. This is absolutely crushing the economy as people are only working to survive. Young people are spending half their rent on basic shelter. Most young people are also giving up as they see no potential future to build a home or a family. Jobs haven't seen a decent rise in wages in decades. The only thing that actually offset it was the crash in the cost of consumer goods as technology progressed. So the system currently favours landowners. Rent is effectively a tax on you using the land. You even pay council tax on the house you own outright, so you're always beholden to the state and the bureaucrats. The concentration of land ownership has been a long issue in the UK, with aristocracy and landed gentry historically holding a large share. While home ownership has increased, homeowners in England are relatively tiny compared to who actually owns the land. Einstein held Georgeism with very high regard. He wrote, "One cannot imagine a more beautiful combination of intellectual keenness, artistic form, and fervent love of justice." Basically, it encourages people who own a lot to get off their arse and work, and then it frees up those who do work, reduces the tax burden on them, and then with that extra freedom lets them help grow the economy. So how does it work? Well, you wouldn't pay income tax or council tax or all the variety of ridiculous taxes. What you do is you pay a land value tax annually on the land that you own. This would discourage speculation and accumulation of land. It also encourages the efficient use of land. You can't just sit on a huge estate and do nothing. It also is believed to promote a greater form of social justice because it reduces inequality and poverty. Could you imagine how much economic potential could be unlocked if there was no tax on your income? Yeah, it would crash the cost of land and housing, but we actually do need this to happen because if people can't afford a home, they can't build a life and they don't feel invested in a society. If you do intend on holding on your land, then you're under greater economic pressure to make better use of it and extract profit from the land. Imagine if your average person wasn't paying income tax, suddenly they would have the money available to pursue hobbies. That hobby of pursuing motorbikes becomes fixing motorbikes, becomes a side gig of fixing motorbikes, that sort of thing. There are critics of Georgeism, of course, and there are possible issues with it as well. I just offer it here as we need to start thinking outside our current system because it is going to crash. There's various arguments on when it's going to end, but we will go bankrupt at some point. It's also fairer from the point of view that you can't dodge tax. It's going to incentivise people who own large amounts of land to either sell up the land or pay tax on it. So if you are wealthy and you want that big mansion with the acreage around it, you're going to be taxed for it, and there'll be no clever accounting to get out of it. Unless, of course, you start putting that land to productive use, and productive use generates jobs and so forth. Just to break down how inefficient land use is in the UK. In England, 8.7% of land is developed, and 91.1% is non-developed, and 0.2% is vacant. The top 3 land use groups are agriculture, which is understandable and you would never want to change that. Forestry, which is good for all of us, open land and water comes in at 20%. Residential and gardens only occupy about 5% of England. So when they talk about a housing shortage, it's not a land shortage, it's planning permissions, it's bureaucracy, it's control preventing the effective use of land. Did you know that it's estimated that golf courses cover twice as much land in England as housing? That's an interesting one to think about, isn't it? So despite its critics, Georgeism's an important idea in terms of economics and social policy. It does continue to be debated and studied, and it is a potential way of changing the burden of taxation in a society. I personally don't think we'll ever see it implemented because of the social upheaval, and those who already hold power are not going to give up, are they? It's far too radical a concept, but it does show there's a wealth of alternatives out there that we could be exploring. Especially when you're told that house prices can't come down because there's a shortage and we just simply can't build them fast enough. Economists from Adam Smith to Milton Friedman have observed that a public levy on land value does not cause economic inefficiency like other taxes. A land value tax is progressive in its effect. Advocates of it argue that it would reduce economic inequality, increase economic efficiency, and remove incentives to underutilise land, and reduce property speculation. I'm not an advocate of Georgeism, I'm just using it here as an example, and we need to explore other examples. I don't think there is a single solution to our economic problems and our societal problems. I think it comes from a large variety of solutions cleverly implemented. It'll require thought, leadership, persuasion. People have to be convinced to step out the box and look at something different, which we just do not have the leadership or system in place to do that. The only solution they have at the moment is ever more taxation, which is only going to accelerate the decline. If anything, knowing the way the UK works, they would introduce Georgeism. Then they would just still continue to take income tax as well, thus negating the entire thing. At the moment, there is no way out. All they can do is increase taxes indefinitely until the amount of effort people are putting in just stops and the tax returns get ever less, and then it just collapses. It's at the point now where something radical has to be actually done, and I don't think it'll happen because the bureaucracy will do whatever it takes to protect its current position. Motorcycling is just a little tiny symptom of the whole problem. Yeah, we want loads of people on bikes, but at the moment most people are just struggling to survive. I don't live in a particularly well-off neighbourhood. It's quite a poor part of England, and I see it every day. I've seen a gradual, steady decline in the last 5 years. For me personally, it would take a lot for me to give up my bike because of the mental health benefits and everything that come with it. But if it came to that situation, I would sell it as well. But it's not going to grow. It's not going to get bigger. If anything, it's in terminal decline as the economy is. We need the economy turned round. We need people happy and confident, doing good jobs and not crippled by the cost of housing or crippled by the cost of energy. Then they can talk about getting into fulfilling, rewarding, brilliant hobbies like motorcycling. The fact most people are just surviving now is only contributing to making the situation worse. All we can do as bikers is be advocates and ambassadors for it. Tell people how wonderful it actually is. Let our enthusiasm and joy for it engage them. Let them think about it. I think the future would be good for it, but generally for me the future of the UK at the very least is not in a great place at the moment, and it's going to take a long time for it to turn round. Thank you so much for visiting my channel. If you enjoy the content, and I'll keep adding a huge variety of content, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. You can also help support the channel by buying one of my children's books below. They're also available on Kindle if you've got a membership to that. It's very important we teach children to read, especially in this day and age of smartphones. Thank you so much for visiting, and bye-bye!